Hey painting friends, it's Stoof here. Welcome back to my channel. This week I'm going to be unboxing and doing a painting tutorial slash a review on the MyPaintz acrylic paint set. The team at MyPaintz reached out to me and sent me their professional MyPaintz acrylic paint set right here. So I'm going to unbox this. I have not opened the box yet. We're going to see what's inside, and I'm going to use this paint set to create an acrylic painting tutorial. I'm also going to be reviewing the quality of the paints as I'm working, so stay tuned for that. Before I open the box, I'm going to read what I'm seeing here. So this is a 24-piece set. There are 24 acrylic paints in 2 fluid ounce bottles, which is 59 milliliters. There are 9 paintbrushes and 1 palette in here as well, apparently. But it says professional MyPaintz acrylic paint set, high viscosity, premium quality. So we will be the judge of that. We're gonna give these a try. It says these are perfect for experienced artists, students, kids, beginners, or people that are just making crafts. The back here says that these paints can be used on paper, canvas, on ceramics, stone, fabric, wood, walls, and more. These are richly pigmented, spread smoothly, fast drying, have a glossy finish, which is a little bit different for acrylic paints too. Usually acrylic paints have more of a matte finish, so we'll see how that works. If you guys are interested in purchasing this set, I have a link for the MyPaintz 24 acrylic paint set in the description under this video. All right, so let's open up the box. Oh, look at that. The palette is right at the top. Okay, and there are the brushes too. So first, let's get out our brushes. So these are, we got some flat tip brushes, some angled brushes, filbert brushes, round tip brushes. That's a really good variety of brushes to have for beginners or somebody that's new to painting. And that's also great if you only want to be using what's in this set and create a bunch of different types of paintings. These are a good set of brushes to have. Oh, they actually have them numbered, yeah. So this one's 5/8, and the smallest brush is a 1, just like I guessed. All right, cool. Here is our little palette. I'm probably not going to use this because I need a lot of space for blending. There's not a whole lot of space for blending here, but there is space just to store your paints while you're creating a painting, so that's nice. All right, here is how the paints are in the box. Pretty nice. Let's pick a color here. I have been really drawn to this blue color lately, in case you couldn't tell. So that's the first one I picked. This is Ultramarine blue. It looks like a hint more on the purple side, but it is a nice blue. Oh, these all have, this is good for shipping and storing. They all have a protective seal on them, so the paint should stay nice and wet and fresh for you. And then whenever you get them, just open them up. And I will be taking the little seal off of all of these colors before I start my tutorial so that I don't have to slow down the process. We've got Prussian green, silver, phthalo green. So far the colors are looking pretty nice without taking them out. It looks like this is just a clear plastic tube, so I can get a pretty good look at what the color is. That's nice. It's not in a bottle that completely hides the color of the paint, so I'm glad that I can get an idea of what paint color I'll be working with. All right guys, I sketched out a painting concept here. You can see those pencil markings on there. I have a flamingo sketched out. I use the grid method. If you want to watch how I did that grid method, I have other example videos for how to do the grid method to accurately sketch out your concept before painting it in. I will leave a link for the grid method video I have in the description under this video. Let's go over our materials for this painting tutorial slash unboxing slash review of MyPaintz brand acrylic paint. We have the palette that I like to use. This is a disposable palette. It's in a neutral gray color that helps you to get your values a little bit more accurate. So your value is how light to dark something is on your painting. So having this gray palette helps you get that accurate. I also have a cup of water. I have a little 8" by 10" canvas panel. That's what I'm working on today. These are very inexpensive and great for practice. I have a link for these canvas panels in the description under this video as well. I also have a couple little paper towels to wipe off my brushes. And these are the paintbrushes that came with the MyPaintz acrylic paint set. I'm definitely going to use this one, and this one. I'm gonna throw this one in there too. So I picked out 2 filbert brushes and a round tip brush and a small flat tip brush. Since I'm working on a smaller canvas, I think these brushes should be good enough for what I'm doing today. So the first color I'm going to use is Spring Green. This should be an opaque color. I'm also going to use this Sky Blue color. Definitely going to need Phthalo Green. This is an opaque color. And something really nice about this paint set is it comes with 2 titanium whites, which is great because you tend to use more white than every other color when using acrylic paints. I'm just going to put the white over here. For the sand in this painting, I'm going to be using this color, which they actually titled Sand. Perfect. I'm also going to need some pink. This is just called pink. Perfect. Also going to use pale purple. There's raw umber. I'm also going to use some of this orange yellow. I'm going to use a little magenta red. And then for our yellows, we have a warm yellow and a cool yellow. I'm going to be using more of this cooler yellow here. And we also need black for the beak. I see one more color I think I'm going to need, and that is Ultramarine blue. Alright, so I got my paint colors down on the palette here. I have a list of these paint colors in the description under this video as well if you need those colors. So far, getting the paint out of the tubes, I'd say these are heavy-bodied acrylic paints. They're pretty thick, which I like to work with. Those are great for me. The real test is going to be if we have to water them down, or if you were to use a medium, like a fast-drying medium, a slow-drying medium, anything like that. Does that affect the pigmentation? Does that make it look less pigmented if you start to add something else to it? So that'll be the real test here. But the colors look pretty vibrant. I like how they're titled and labeled on the bottles, and they're looking pretty good so far. So let's get started with our painting and keep this review going. All right, I'm going to get started with the sky in the background. So I'm going to use this sky blue color. I'm just going to put some of that right on here just to see how dark that is. I'm going to mix some titanium white into that. And keep going back and forth with the brush, covering up the canvas. The paint is going on pretty nicely. I'm going to mix some more white and some of that spring green in. And just put that underneath, going right up to the side of the flamingo's head. Where I sketched it out. Taking more white for the area right at the horizon line. And I'm going to paint over the neck just a little bit there, just so I get a good even brush stroke. Now I'm just starting to work back and forth with the brush. The paint is drying at a pretty good rate. It's not like too fast. That's one of my struggles with acrylic paint, and I think a lot of other people struggle with that too, is acrylic paint can dry very quickly when you're working, and sometimes it's hard to blend. But so far, so good. I got that nice blend transition in there. No complaints with how quickly or slowly the paint is drying. It seems to be drying just right for what I like. I'm gonna take some ultramarine blue, some phthalo green, and some magenta. Need more phthalo green. I'm gonna put a little bit of umber in here too. Keep going with the phthalo green and some of my sky blue. And I'm going to put this right at the horizon line. Just going gently back and forth with this brush. Trying to get a pretty flat and straight horizon line without using any type of a ruler. If you would like to use a ruler or use a piece of paper, you're welcome to do that. That'll help you get a nice straight line. Okay, so I put that paint down. It's getting on there pretty nice. Just fuzzing that line out, just softening it up a little bit. Going over the bird's neck just to make sure those two lines match up. Okay, I'm liking that. Now I'm going to mix in more phthalo green, where I had a little bit of white here before, and more of my sky blue. Just going to put this right under and blend that in. Using even more of my sky blue. Now I'm cleaning the extra paint off my brush, and I'm taking my spring green with some phthalo green and a little sky blue, and let's see what that color does for us. It's looking pretty nice there. Just going back and forth, blending up. These colors are working out pretty nice so far. No complaints. They're giving me a nice even coverage. They're working the way that I would expect heavy-bodied acrylic paints to work. I'm going to take some more white and a little sky blue and just go back and forth over there. Okay, take a little more sky blue, white, a little bit of that light spring green, just a touch of phthalo green. I want to get a nice turquoise bluish color here. And we're going to mix in more white. And right up to the edge of the bird. I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow, a little bit of pink, mix that in here. Give me that nice, pretty, shallow, bright green color that we see. And just working my way up, back and forth. I'm going to take a little bit more of my sky blue with some phthalo green. More sky blue. Maybe a little bit of ultramarine too. And I just want to do a couple little lines back and forth. So it's a little bit blended, but the paint's getting a little tacky back there now, and it's starting to look kind of like ripples, like little, very gentle waves, little shadows in the water. I'm gonna take a little bit of umber with my sand color. Do a little bit of that in here. And I'm covering up the bird kinda now, but we'll get that all touched up pretty soon. Taking more white with our spring green, a little bit of our sand color. Just making it nice and light. And we're going to take a little bit of umber, some pink, more sand color. I'm going to put this little shadow. It's like a neutral grayish yellow. I'm going to put that right here. Going to add a little purple to it. And we're going to add more sand with white. Put that there and then blend it up. Gives us like a wet sand look. And more white with a little bit of that light yellow and a little bit of pink. Okay, now I'm going to take some of my light pink with a little more of my yellow. Give me a warmer sandy color there. I'm going to blend that in. Just going to lift that up for a second so I can get this all the way to the bottom. And I want to use a thicker amount of paint here just so that I can get a nice little textured, more painterly look. I'm going to take just some white and put a little bit of white in there too. I can still kind of see where the bird's legs went. I'm going to take my purple and my ultramarine, a little more purple, and let's see, this one leg goes here to here, and he's got a shadow. That's going to go, I'm going to use a little bit of magenta too. Shadow's going to go like this. His leg bends, and then he's got like his body down here. And having the shadow here is really going to help this bird to look like he's really standing there. And we're going to have another shadow about right here. And it's going to bend like that. And I'm going to take the extra paint off my brush and just soften up the edges of the shadow just a little bit. So I don't want to have any super sharp edges. I want it to be a little bit blended, a little softer on the edges. Now I'm going to switch to my smaller filbert brush and start to get a little bit of this area. So I'm going to mix my spring green with a little bit of my yellow. And it gives me that really pretty, right by the shore, glistening water appearance. I'm taking more white and just kind of pushing the brush around and making little swirling motions in the canvas. Got a couple little spots here that we got some little very gentle breaking waves. And we're going to do a little bit more white right here. And this can go right up over your shadowy spot. I'm going to take a little bit of blue, mix it in over here with these colors. A little bit of raw umber gets in there, and let's do a tiny bit of that orange color. And some more purple, and a little bit more ultramarine. And that'll give me, let's do a little more ultramarine. There we go. And I want a color that's a little lighter in value than the shadow of the sand right under it, but just want to soften that edge up a little. Since this isn't really the focal point, the bird is more of the focal point, I just want to soften things up, make it look like we've got a little bit of sand getting tossed around right at that breaking point. And I'm just pushing this paint around. It's working pretty nice. Getting the extra paint off the brush. I'm going to take a little bit of more ultramarine, just so I get like a cooler blue-gray color. Build up a couple little shadows where the breaking waves are. Put little bits of this phthalo green color in here where it's just a little deeper maybe. take a tiny bit of brown, more of our yellow and green. Just put this in a couple little spots, kind of close to the shore. And I'm going to start blocking in the shape of the bird first with this brush. So let's do our magenta color with some ultramarine blue and a little bit of that reddish color and just a little black. Let's do more ultramarine. I want to have a cooler, muted pink here, reddish pink. All right, so we got that there. I'm going to take my brush and start to sketch out the bird's leg. And I'm very, very gently pressing here. If you press too hard, then it's going to give you a very thick line. We don't want a thick line because he has very stilt-like skinny legs. So if it helps first, you can just do the 2 lines, 2 straight lines. For the most part. With that knee type of joint here. Just remember to press very gently. If you want to use that #1 liner brush there, you could do that too. All right, so I got those in there. Now I'm just going to put a little, I'm going to press a little harder, and it's going to give me this little knee joint, and pull it back down. And then he's got his foot. It's basically just 3 little toes come out, it looks like, and you can see the webbing on this part of the foot. All right, so I got that sketched in there. They may be like a tiny bit too thick in some spots, but I'm gonna let it be for now, and we're gonna come back later, and we can touch things up later if we need to. Next, I'm gonna take this orange, yellow color and some pink and some white. Lots of white. And I'm just gonna start with the head here. And I'm gonna follow the shape that I sketched out before. There we go. If your paint is showing up translucent, like you can see the blue water behind the bird as you're starting to paint in the bird, just put this layer down, let it dry first, and then come back to it. You can put white down and then put all of these colors back layered up over the white, and that'll give you that nice bright pink vibrant color. Just mixing in more white in mine right now. Try to cover up some of the other colors that are underneath showing through. Okay, and then we're going to mix a little bit of my sky blue with magenta and more pink. More pink. And that's just giving me a cooler version of that same pink. That might be a little too cool. Let's mix in like a little bit of sand, a little more pink and white. And we can actually make a new spot that's just pink and white. And that should give us something closer. Mix a little bit of that reddish orange in there. There we go. That's more like what I'm looking for. So just something like a little bit more muted, a little less vibrant. You can get that by mixing some of your cooler colors in there, or you can add a little bit of black. And I'm just carefully painting in the shape, the outline. Do some more white. And he's got his little spots that connect the leg to the body. Little wing there. And then I'm gonna get the extra paint off my brush, mix into that shadowy color again. I'm gonna mix a little bit more of my red and a little bit more of my magenta. And a little bit more red. Get this bottom part of the chin. Connect this in here. And this is a tricky part because you don't want to make one part of the neck too thick. So just kind of try to, for the most part, parallel your left side with your right side. I'd say it gets a little bit wider as you're coming down, but not too much. So carry this shadowy part on to right there. And then the wings a little more. And let's get more pink. For the center part right here is a little bit darker. That helps to give us that nice three-dimensional look for the bird. Okay, that looks pretty nice so far. And I'm gonna get this bit of his head here to touch the highlight. Just carefully painting that in. Okay, and now I'm going to switch to my number one, more of a liner brush. I'm going to paint in the beak. I'm going to start with black. I'm just watering the paint down a little bit so I get better control over the brush stroke marks. He's got a really steep angle. For his black part of his beak. Just like that. And then we gotta bring just like one little black part right there. There's a little bit of black in the feathers. I'm just gonna mix my black in with my magenta and just darken up this little spot on the wing. Add a couple little shadows right in here. Maybe just a little shadow down there, just to help separate this leg a little more. And I'm just going to start to do a little more to the wings. Just taking the brush and making little rounded brush strokes. Just to show there's a little dimension. And take more of our pink and white with a little bit of that orange color, and I'm going to brighten up this side. I'm going to brighten up the underside of that. take just some white, get that really good in there on the brush. I'll put a nice bright highlight right there, and right there, and on the back. On the tail feather. And then for the face, I'm just going to mix black with my white. There's a little bit of pink still in there, and that's okay. Just I can get this part of the beak. And I'm going to mix a little bit more black and brown in there. Just by making the head slightly larger. Add another little shadow right on this side of the head. Put a little bit of light in there, a little bit of my sand color. And I'm gonna touch up the shadow under the flamingo's feet. Just to give that extra little bit that pulls him down to the ground, makes it look like he's really standing there. I'm going to touch up the water now with just some pure white with this smaller brush. Just going back and forth. Gonna just kind of push it around, hold it at an angle, gently pressing, make it look like we've got some shallow water here. Being a little bit careful around the legs. And I'm just going to take my water, get a little bit of that in here, and just go back and forth with the brush to get this nice, shallow, glistening water look. And I'm just going to do one more little touch up to the flamingo with just my white and a little bit of that light orange red color. Just going to boost the highlight from where the sun is touching the bird on his cheek. Ultramarine with pink and sand color. And white, and just touch up a couple of these little spots, just get these colors to look a little bit more like what I'm going for. A little bit more reddish colors in there. Oops, a little too dark. Touch up this spot there. A little bit more of just white. So right there. Alright guys, that is what I'm going to call our finished painting. Oh, just kidding guys. I decided since this is a review of MyPaintz, I wanted to try out another style, so I painted over this painting with an Impressionism style of the same concept. For the Impressionism piece, I used much thicker texture, much more paint was loaded on each brush stroke on the canvas. You can see some of that texture in the little blobs of paint I put all over the canvas, and I loved the way that this turned out. And there is more of a glossy finish to this, which is great for Impressionism paintings. So I really like this for realism paintings and Impressionism paintings. I'm sure you guys have a lot more different styles of painting out there. So if you bought this set and you paint in another style, let me know what you think of this paint brand in the comments. Overall, I really liked working with these MyPaintz acrylic paints. They work like your usual heavy-bodied acrylic paint. I also want to mention two of the paint colors in there I don't ever use, but I know a lot of other people like to use. Metallic gold and silver paints with a little bit of sparkle to them. So if you enjoy using metallic paints, that is in the set for you. I would say I definitely recommend these acrylic paints for you guys. These are great for beginners, great for intermediate painters. I don't know if they're, at the same quality as Golden brand heavy-bodied acrylic paints, but I really like the consistency. I like the pigmentation. I like how they go on the canvas. I think the company does a nice job of labeling their bottles, letting you know the opacity of the paint, also giving you a good idea of what the color is that you'll be using, and I think that they label these colors pretty well too. Here is what the box looks like one more time for the MyPaintz professional acrylic paint set. I think the paint is better quality than the brushes. The brushes work all right. The number one brush was giving me a little bit of a hard time. I'm used to using liner brushes that have a little bit stronger bristles, so that's going to be my only complaint. Is I think that number one brush could have a little bit stronger of a synthetic bristle, just so that it's a little sturdier when you're putting the paint down. It doesn't just like flimsily go onto the canvas. But other than that, I really like the paints. You can order these paints using the link in the description under this video. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. Have a great day and happy painting!